Aliens in fear, after a dangerous glimpse of a human warship, culminates in a heart-stopping rescue mission where former adversaries become saviors. As a devastating stellar flare threatens thousands at New Prospect Colony, Captain Voss and Commander Aaron make the ultimate sacrifice, positioning their damaged vessels as living shields against deadly radiation, proving that shared values transcend alien differences and transforming fear into an unbreakable alliance. The void of space stretched out endlessly, a canvas of midnight blue, punctuated by the cold, distant glimmer of stars. Against this backdrop, the human warship, HMS Dauntless, cut a sleek, predatory silhouette, an angular shadow adorned with the faint blue glow of ion engines and the occasional flash of navigation lights. The massive vessel moved with the calculated precision of a shark patrolling familiar waters, following its programmed course along the neutral border that separated human-controlled space from the territories beyond. On the command bridge, Captain Elena Voss suppressed a yawn as she reviewed the day's sensor logs. Tall and composed, with her dark hair pulled back in a regulation knot, she embodied the disciplined presence expected of a vessel commander in the Earth Defense Fleet. The Dauntless had been on this particular patrol route for 17 days, and the monotony was beginning to wear on even the most dedicated crew members. "Anything worth reporting, Lieutenant Zhang?" Voss asked, addressing her sensor officer. Lieutenant Zhang's fingers danced across her console, sifting through readings. "Nothing significant, Captain. Just the usual cosmic background radiation. Some asteroid field drift approximately 6 parsecs out. And..." She paused, frowning slightly. "A momentary energy fluctuation at Sector Gamma 9, but it disappeared almost immediately. Likely just sensor echo from that pulsar we passed yesterday." Voss nodded, unsurprised. "Log it anyway, standard protocol." "Yes, Captain," Zhang replied, her attention already returning to her instruments. First Officer Malik approached, datapad in hand. A man of few words but careful thought. He had served alongside Voss for 3 years. "Crew rotation schedules for your approval, Captain," he said, offering the device. "Also, engineering reports the portside shield generators are running at 98% efficiency. They're requesting permission to take them offline for calibration during the next rest cycle." "Permission granted," Voss said, quickly reviewing and approving the schedules with her thumbprint. "Anything else?" "The galley's serving that synthesized protein that's supposed to taste like salmon again," Malik said with a hint of a smile. "Morale in the mess may suffer accordingly." Voss allowed herself a small chuckle. "Noted. First Officer, perhaps we should schedule an additional recreation period to compensate." As the officers continued their routine duties, none of them suspected that, several light minutes away, they were being observed. The Auroran research vessel, Celestia, drifted in the shadow of a massive comet, its smooth, opalescent hull designed to blend with the cosmic ice behind it. Unlike the intimidating angles of the Dauntless, the Celestia was all graceful curves and biomimetic architecture, a vessel built by a civilization that valued harmony and scientific inquiry above military might. Commander Aaron stood at the viewing dome, his 4-fingered hand resting lightly on the transparent material as he gazed outward. Like all Aurorans, his skin had a faint, luminescent quality, shifting subtly between pale blue and violet, depending on his emotional state. Currently, it pulsed with the steady cyan of scientific curiosity. "Commander," called Science Officer Lyra from her station. "We're detecting unusual gravitational fluctuations in Sector 7. Request permission to deploy a long-range scanner to investigate potential cosmic string activity." Aaron's membraned eyes blinked in their vertical pattern, indicating approval. "Proceed, Science Officer. The Cosmic Phenomena Initiative will be pleased if we can collect more data on string theory." He moved toward the central command platform, which hovered gently above the main deck. "Any other anomalies worth investigating?" Lyra's hands, each with its opposable thumbs on both sides, manipulated the scanner controls with practiced efficiency. Nothing beyond standard. Wait. Her skin flickered briefly to the yellow of surprise. There's something metallic at the edge of our detection range. The computer can't identify the composition. It doesn't match any known Auroran or Concord materials. Natural formation, Aaron inquired. His professional curiosity piqued. Negative. It's too uniform, and it's generating its own energy signature. Very faint, but definitely artificial. Lyra's fingers called up a hazy visual representation on the main viewing screen. The scanner can't get a clear image at this distance. Aaron considered the options. The Auroran Confederation was a peaceful collective of worlds, dedicated to scientific advancement and cultural exchange. Their vessels were equipped for research, not confrontation. Still, the protocols were clear. Record all readings and prepare a preliminary report for Concord Central. If there's an unknown technological presence in this sector, the Council should be informed. His skin remained the calm blue of professional assessment, betraying none of the unease that fluttered at the edges of his consciousness. Let's also adjust our position behind this comet. For scientific reasons, of course. The tail provides an excellent vantage point for our cosmic string observations. Of course, Commander, Lyra acknowledged, recognizing the prudent caution behind the order. Neither vessel's crew realized that this chance detection would soon set in motion events that would forever alter the relationship between their civilizations. On the Celestia, Science Officer Lyra had become increasingly intrigued by the mysterious object at the edge of their scanning range. After hours of adjustments and algorithm refinements, she made a breakthrough. Commander Aaron, I've managed to recalibrate our long-range scanner using quantum resonance techniques. We should be able to get a much clearer image of the unknown object. Aaron, who had been reviewing data from their cosmic string observations, joined her at the science station. Excellent work, Lyra. Let's see what we're dealing with. Lyra activated the enhanced scanner, and both Aurorans watched as the viewing screen filled with a high-resolution image that slowly came into focus. What they saw caused their skin to simultaneously flash the bright orange of alarm. The image revealed a massive vessel of clearly artificial design. But unlike anything in the Auroran database, where Auroran ships were organic and flowing in their architecture, this craft was angular, armored, and unmistakably built for combat. Multiple protrusions that could only be weapon arrays dotted its hull, and the power signatures emanating from its core suggested propulsion and defensive systems of tremendous capability. By the celestial harmony, Aaron whispered, his voice barely audible as his skin pulsed between orange alarm and the deep purple of dread. That's a warship. The word hung in the air like a physical presence. The Auroran Confederation had abolished warfare centuries ago, choosing instead to focus their technological advancement on exploration, medicine, and science. They had encountered other spacefaring species, of course, but all current members of the Concord shared similar pacifistic values. This vessel represented something else entirely, a civilization that still embraced the concept of weaponized space travel. Alarm klaxons suddenly blared throughout the Celestia, causing both officers to jolt in surprise. "What's happening?" Aaron demanded. The ship's medical AI responded in its soothing voice. "Biological stress indicators have exceeded safety parameters. Crew hormone levels indicate acute anxiety response. Recommending immediate calming protocols." Lyra's hands trembled as she worked her console. "Commander, I believe our scanner may have inadvertently focused too intensely. The quantum resonance technique might have created a momentary energy surge directed at the vessel." "Are you saying they might have detected us?" Aaron's skin now blazed with the bright orange of alarm. I don't know, Commander, but considering the military nature of that ship, we should assume the possibility." Aaron made an immediate decision. Initiate silent running protocols. Power down all non-essential systems, and prepare an encrypted subspace transmission to Concord Central. Priority 1. His vertical eyelids blinked rapidly, a sign of intense concentration. This is precisely the type of first contact scenario we've been warned about. A technologically advanced species with military capability. As the Celestia went dark, powering down to minimal life support and observation systems, Aaron composed his message to the Concord Council. His fingers hesitated over the final classification code. After a moment's thought, he designated the transmission Potential Civilization Threat. Immediate council review required. With a sense of foreboding, he sent the message into the void, knowing it would reach Concord Central within hours. Whatever happened next would be beyond his control. Aboard the HMS Dauntless, Captain Voss was reviewing tactical simulations when Lieutenant Zhang suddenly straightened at her station. "Captain, I'm detecting an unusual energy pattern directed toward our position. It lasted only 2.7 seconds, but it appears to have been some form of scanning beam." Voss was immediately alert. "Origin?" "Difficult to pinpoint exactly, but it came from the direction of that comet cluster in Sector Gamma 9, where we detected that earlier fluctuation." First Officer Malik moved to the tactical display. "Could be a sensor echo bouncing off the comet ice. Or it could be someone taking a very close look at us," Voss countered, her expression thoughtful rather than alarmed. Years of command had taught her that paranoia was as dangerous as complacency. "Tactical. Run a passive sweep of that sector. No active scanning. I don't want to spook anyone if there is someone out there." Weapons Officer Jared Donovan, a stocky veteran with more battle decorations than most officers twice his age, spoke up from his station. "Captain, regulations state that unknown scanning of a military vessel constitutes a potential pre-attack action. We should go to yellow alert and prepare countermeasures." "I'm aware of regulations, Officer Donovan," Voss replied evenly. "But we're in neutral space, and that scan was brief and non-invasive. It could simply be a curious explorer or even an automated survey probe." She turned back to Lieutenant Zhang. "Continue monitoring, but discreetly. I want to know if there's anyone out there, but I don't want them to know we're looking." "Yes, Captain," Zhang acknowledged, adjusting her instruments for maximum sensitivity at minimal power output. Voss returned to her command chair, outwardly calm but inwardly alert. The HMS Dauntless was the pride of Earth's defense fleet, equipped with the latest generation of weapons and defensive systems. But her mission on this patrol was explicitly peaceful, to maintain human presence along the border without provoking incident. If there was indeed another civilization observing them, Voss intended to handle the situation with appropriate caution. Humanity had survived its turbulent past precisely by learning when not to shoot first. On her console, a small notification appeared, then vanished almost immediately. A brief data burst detected and automatically logged by the ship's systems. In the routine of the moment, it was flagged for later review. One more item in the endless stream of information processed by the massive warship as it continued its silent patrol. Within the gleaming spires of Concord Central Station, orbiting the neutral star Epsilon Indi, the Council of 15 Species had convened an emergency session. The Grand Chamber, with its soaring crystalline dome that showcased the surrounding starfield, was filled with the representatives of the Auroran Confederation's member species. Councillor Thale, representative of the methane-breathing Vordari, floated in his environmental suit near the central podium. His tentacles waved in patterns that the translation matrices interpreted as extreme agitation. "Commander Aaron's transmission is unambiguous." Thale's modulated voice boomed through the chamber. "A heavily armed vessel of unknown origin is patrolling the borders of our space. The images clearly show multiple weapon emplacements capable of devastating damage. We must assume hostile intent." Moderator Celine, the eldest of the Auroran representatives, raised her hand for calm. Her skin glowed with the steady green of rational thought. "Let us not rush to judgment, Counselor. We have no evidence of hostile intent beyond the vessel's apparent design. Many civilizations develop along different paths than our own." Different paths? Counselor Thala's environmental suit flashed red indicators of disbelief. "That ship is designed for one purpose only: to destroy. The Vordari remember the ancient wars that nearly eradicated our ancestors. We cannot risk such devastation again." The chamber erupted in overlapping voices and translator matrices, some counseling caution, others demanding immediate defensive action. The debate grew increasingly heated until moderator Celine activated the harmonic resonator, sending a soothing wave of sound through the chamber that traditionally signaled for order. "We will proceed methodically," she announced when silence had returned. "First, we need more information." Commander Aaron's scan was brief and, while concerning, insufficient for policy decisions that could affect all 15 species of our Confederation. Counselor Thale's tentacles curled in frustration. "And how do you propose we gather this information? Send a diplomatic envoy to be vaporized?" From the shadows at the edge of the chamber stepped forward a slender figure whose species was not immediately apparent, a rarity in the diverse council. The figure wore an adaptive camouflage suit that seemed to absorb and redirect light around it. "Perhaps I can be of assistance," the figure said, voice modulated to neutral tones. "The Umbral Corps specializes in observation without detection." Moderator Celine nodded in recognition. "Agent Mira, the Council acknowledges the expertise of the Umbral Corps in matters of covert intelligence gathering." Mira inclined her head slightly, the movement causing ripples in the light-bending fabric of her suit. "I propose a stealth mission to shadow this vessel. My ship can maintain quantum cloaking indefinitely. I will observe their routines, technological capabilities, and, most importantly, their intentions." "And if discovered?" asked a crystalline Luridian representative, their faceted body refracting light in patterns of concern. "Then I will ensure no trace leads back to Concord Central." Mira replied with practiced neutrality. "My existence is already classified beyond this council." After further debate, the council voted narrowly to approve Agent Mira's mission, with the Hawks like Thale grudgingly accepting it as a compromise to their demands for immediate military preparation. The dissenters, led by moderator Celine, extracted a promise that no preemptive action would be taken without a full council vote based on Mira's findings. As the council session adjourned, Mira disappeared as silently as she had arrived, already preparing for her mission to shadow the human warship that had unwittingly thrown the peaceful Confederation into turmoil. Captain Elena Voss sat alone in her ready room, the starlight from the viewport casting long shadows across her desk. Before her, the ship's computer displayed the mysterious data burst that had been detected during their encounter with the unexplained scanning beam. She had ordered a full analysis, and the results were puzzling. "Computer, run decryption sequence alpha through Epsilon again," she commanded, rubbing her temples. 3 hours of staring at the cryptic transmission was giving her a headache. "Decryption sequences complete," the AI responded. "Unable to match pattern against known communication protocols. Analysis suggests 89% probability of artificial origin rather than natural phenomenon." Voss leaned back in her chair, contemplating. Regulations were clear. Any potential first contact scenario was to be reported immediately to Fleet Command. But doing so would trigger a diplomatic incident and potentially bring more warships to this sector, exactly the kind of escalation she hoped to avoid if this was indeed an unknown civilization making tentative contact. A chime at her door interrupted her thoughts. "Enter," she called, closing the data files with a swift gesture. First Officer Malik stepped in, his expression concerned. "Captain, engineering reports they've completed the shield calibration, but they found something unusual during the diagnostic." "What kind of unusual, First Officer?" There appears to have been a very subtle energy scan directed at our shield emitters, approximately 7 hours ago. It was so faint that it didn't trigger any alarms, but the calibration revealed trace patterns consistent with quantum resonance technology. Voss's expression remained neutral, but her mind raced. Quantum resonance. That's theoretical technology according to our scientists. Yes, Captain. The chief engineer believes it may indicate observation by a technologically advanced entity. Possibly. He hesitated. Non-human in origin. The words hung in the air between them. Humanity had expanded through their solar system and beyond to nearby stars, but had yet to encounter another intelligent, spacefaring species. The possibility had always existed, of course. The mathematical probability made it almost certain. But humanity's official first contact protocols remained untested. Thank you, First Officer. Have engineering compile a full report, but keep this information restricted to senior staff, only for now. Voss stood and moved to the viewport, gazing out at the star-strewn darkness. And Malik, what's your personal assessment? Not the regulation response, your gut feeling. Malik joined her at the viewport, his reflection appearing beside hers in the transparent aluminum. I think someone's watching us, Captain, and I think they're nervous about what they see. Voss nodded slowly. A heavily armed warship suddenly appearing near their territory. I might be nervous too. She turned to face her first officer directly. We need to proceed with extreme caution. If there is an intelligent civilization out there, the last thing we want is for humanity's first impression to be one of aggression. The Admiralty might not share that view. Captain, Fleet Protocol emphasizes security over diplomatic niceties, which is precisely why we're going to gather more information before filing an official report. Voss returned to her desk and activated a secure channel. Have Lieutenant Zhang meet me here immediately. I want to run some very specific, very quiet sensor sweeps of that comet cluster. As Malik left to carry out her orders, Voss returned her gaze to the stars. Somewhere out there, someone, or something, was watching the Dauntless, and how she responded in the coming hours might determine the course of human history. Agent Mira's vessel, little more than a cockpit surrounded by quantum cloaking technology, drifted silently through the asteroid field that orbited the edge of the neutral zone. From this vantage point, she had maintained constant observation of the human warship for nearly 14 hours, recording every energy signature, every communication burst, every minute course adjustment. Her multispectral eyes, an evolutionary advantage of her species, allowed her to perceive energy patterns invisible to most Confederation members. What she saw troubled her deeply. The warship's power core alone generated enough energy to sustain a small Auroran city. Its weapon systems, while currently dormant, showed evidence of destructive capability far beyond anything in the Confederation's defensive arsenal, and its hull composition suggested it could withstand attacks that would obliterate any Concord vessel. Mira carefully adjusted her position, using the gravitational pull of a nearby asteroid to maintain her trajectory without engaging engines that might be detected. As she did so, she composed her latest report to the Council. Subject vessel maintains patrol pattern consistent with territorial defense protocols. Weapon systems remain powered down, but in standby mode, capable of full activation in under 3 seconds. Hull composition analysis confirms adaptive metallurgical technology with self-healing properties. Propulsion system appears to be 7th-generation ion drive with quantum enhancement capabilities. She paused in her recording as her instruments detected a subtle shift in the warship's energy patterns. Something had changed. The vessel was now emitting low-level scanning waves that swept through the asteroid field with methodical precision. Interesting, she murmured to herself. They're looking for something. Perhaps they detected Aaron's scan after all. Mira activated her ship's secondary cloaking system, which would mask even the minute energy signature of her life support systems. It was an extreme measure that would limit her oxygen recycling to minimal levels, but necessary if the human vessel was actively searching. As she completed the shutdown sequence, a warning flashed across her control panel. The human ship's scanning pattern had suddenly intensified and was now focusing directly on her position. Somehow, they had detected something, perhaps the brief surge of power as she activated the secondary cloak. Mira's training kept her calm as she assessed her options. Direct confrontation was out of the question. Her vessel carried no weapons. Attempting to flee would require reactivating her engines, making her even more visible. Her only choice was to maintain absolute stillness and hope the quantum cloak would prevent detailed scanning. Aboard the Dauntless, Lieutenant Zhang's eyes widened as her console displayed unexpected readings. "Captain, I'm detecting an anomaly in the asteroid field. It's like a hole in space, an area where our sensors can't penetrate." Captain Voss moved swiftly to the sensor station, First Officer Malik close behind. "Natural phenomenon?" "Negative, Captain. The boundaries are too precise, too regular, and there's the faintest trace of an energy signature at the center, almost as if something is there, but is being actively hidden from our sensors." Weapons Officer Donovan didn't wait for orders. "Tactical alert! Targeting systems online!" "Belay that," Voss commanded sharply. "We are not firing on an unidentified phenomenon." She turned back to Zhang. "Can you determine if it poses any threat?" "No aggressive energy signatures detected, Captain. Whatever it is, it appears to be passive, observing rather than engaging." Voss considered this information carefully. "So, someone is definitely watching us, using some form of cloaking technology beyond our current understanding." She straightened, coming to a decision. "Maintain current course and speed. Continue passive monitoring of the anomaly, but take no hostile action. And Donovan," she fixed the weapons officer with a firm stare, "keep those targeting systems offline unless I specifically order otherwise." "Captain," Donovan protested, "regulations clearly state—" "I'm well aware of regulations, Officer," Voss interrupted. "But this is potentially a first contact scenario, and I will not have humanity's introduction to another intelligent species be marked by unnecessary aggression." Her tone softened slightly. "However, you may bring shields to standby status, defensive measures only." As the bridge crew carried out her orders, Voss returned to the command chair, outwardly composed, but inwardly churning with possibilities. If this hidden observer represented the same civilization that had scanned them earlier, then they were dealing with a technologically advanced species, capable of both quantum resonance scanning and highly effective cloaking technology. Yet, despite these capabilities, they had made no aggressive moves, only observation. That suggested caution, perhaps even fear, rather than hostile intent. "First Officer," Voss said quietly as Malik approached her chair. "Prepare a simple greeting message, basic mathematical sequences, and universal constants that would be recognizable to any technologically advanced civilization. Have it ready to transmit on my command." Malik's eyebrows rose slightly. "You're considering initiating contact?" "I'm considering having the option available," Voss replied. "For now, let's see what our shy observer does next." In the asteroid field, Agent Mira remained absolutely still, her breathing shallow to conserve oxygen as the human vessel's sensors swept over her position again and again. Her instruments indicated that the warship had raised its shields to standby status, a defensive posture rather than offensive. "They know I'm here," she realized, "but they haven't attacked. Interesting." Back on Concord Central, the council chamber had become a theater of barely controlled chaos. Agent Mira's preliminary reports had been transmitted before she went into deep cloak, and the contents had polarized the representatives even further. "The destructive capacity of a single vessel exceeds our entire defensive fleet. Counselor Thale's environment suit flashed with patterns of agitation so intense that the translator matrices struggled to keep up. And now, they are actively scanning for Agent Mira. When they find her, and they will trace her back to us. Moderator Celine maintained her calm, though her skin had taken on the deeper blue of concern. Agent Mira is the best operative we have. Her cloaking technology is beyond detection by our own sensors. There's no reason to believe these humans can penetrate it. You place too much faith in technology, moderator, countered a Luridian representative, crystal facets glinting anxiously. We should recall Mira immediately and prepare the Confederation for potential conflict. And how would we do that? Asked Celine pointedly. We have maintained peace for so long that our defensive capabilities have atrophied. If these humans are truly as advanced and militaristic as they appear, confrontation would be disastrous. Counselor Thale's tentacles curled dismissively. So we do nothing? Wait for them to discover warp corridor technology and pour into our space with their war fleets? No, Celine replied firmly. We continue to gather information. We assess their true intentions, rather than assuming the worst. And we prepare contingency plans that don't involve dragging the Confederation into a war it cannot win. The debate continued to rage. But in the private chambers adjacent to the council room, a smaller group of representatives had begun drafting emergency protocols, evacuation plans for border worlds, resource allocation for potential refugee crises, and, most controversially, the reactivation of ancient defensive technologies that had been sealed away for centuries. The peaceful Auroran Confederation was preparing for the possibility of war for the first time in 7 generations. And all because of a glimpse of a single human warship. Commander Aaron paced the command deck of the Celestia, his skin fluctuating between the deep blue of worry and the green of concentrated thought. The ship remained in silent running mode, powered down to minimal systems and hidden in the comet's shadow. They had received encrypted updates from Concord Central, enough to know that Agent Mira had been dispatched to observe the alien warship, but communications were necessarily limited to avoid detection. Commander, Science Officer Lyra called softly from her station. I've been analyzing the quantum resonance data we gathered from the alien vessel before we went dark. There's something unusual in the readings. Aaron moved to her side, grateful for anything to distract from his mounting anxiety. Unusual how? The power distribution within the ship doesn't align with what we would expect for a purely military vessel, Lyra explained, bringing up a holographic display of energy flow patterns. Yes, there are significant allocations to weapon systems and shields, but there's also substantial power directed to what appear to be research laboratories, hydroponics bays, and these sections here. She highlighted several areas. Based on the energy signatures, these could be habitation zones for non-military personnel, perhaps even families. Aaron studied the display with growing confusion. A warship with civilians aboard? That contradicts basic military doctrine, at least as we understand it. Precisely, Lyra agreed, her skin taking on the yellow-green of intellectual excitement despite the tense situation, which suggests either a fundamental difference in their social structure or... She hesitated. Or what? Or perhaps it's not primarily a warship at all, but a multi-purpose vessel that happens to be heavily armed. She looked up at her commander, membraned eyes, blinking vertically in the Auroran expression of uncertainty. What if we've misinterpreted their intentions from the beginning? Before Aaron could respond, the communications officer called from across the deck. Commander, we're detecting a transmission being broadcast on multiple frequencies. It's coming from the alien vessel. Is it directed at us? Aaron asked sharply. Unknown, sir. It's being sent in all directions, an omnidirectional broadcast. The pattern is unusual. The officer's skin flickered with confusion. It appears to be a series of mathematical sequences, prime numbers, followed by physical constants, like pi, followed by what might be a simple pictographic representation of their solar system. Aaron felt a mixture of dread and fascination wash over him. "They're sending a greeting," he realized aloud. A message that any technologically advanced species would recognize as artificial and intelligent in origin. He moved to the main viewing screen, where the mathematical sequences were now displayed. They know someone is watching them, and they're trying to establish communication rather than taking hostile action. The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. After several moments, Lyra spoke up, her voice barely above a whisper. "What do we do, Commander?" Aaron's skin stabilized into the calm blue of decision. "Prepare a response using the same mathematical language. We'll start with the same constants to confirm mutual understanding, then add our own, a gesture of reciprocity." He turned to face his crew, all of whom watched him with membraned eyes, wide in anticipation. "The Council may debate policy, but we are the ones actually facing this situation, and I believe that responding to a peaceful overture with silence would be a missed opportunity at best, and dangerous at worst." "Sir," the tactical officer interjected hesitantly, "responding will reveal our position. Standard protocol." "I'm aware of protocol," Aaron interrupted gently. "But I'm also aware that we may be making first contact with an entirely new civilization. This moment will be recorded in history, one way or another. I would prefer it be remembered as a moment of courage and openness rather than fear and silence." His skin pulsed briefly, with the purple of resolve. "Prepare the transmission." On the bridge of the Dauntless, Captain Voss had been waiting patiently since authorizing the broadcast of their greeting message. 27 minutes had passed with no response, and she was beginning to wonder if their hidden observer had perhaps fled, or if their message had simply not been recognized as a communication attempt. "Captain," Lieutenant Zhang called suddenly, her voice tight with excitement. "We're receiving a transmission, same frequency spectrum as our broadcast, coming from—" She checked her readings twice. "The comet we were investigating earlier. There's a ship hiding in its shadow." "On screen," Voss ordered, rising from her command chair. The main view screen filled with scrolling mathematical sequences, a perfect echo of their own message, followed by new constants and what appeared to be an astronomical map of a different star system. "They're responding in kind," First Officer Malik observed, his usually stoic expression giving way to wonder, and offering additional information as a show of good faith. Weapons Officer Donovan remained skeptical. "Or they're trying to pinpoint our communication receivers to target them."
"If they wanted to attack, Officer Donovan, they've had ample opportunity," Voss replied. "They've been observing us for hours, possibly days." She studied the star map on the screen. "They're showing us their home system. It's a gesture of trust and vulnerability."
She turned to her communications officer. "Prepare a response. Acknowledge their message and include a simplified map of our solar system. Then, add a visual representation of the Dauntless, with emphasis on our non-military sections. Hydroponics, medical, scientific research. Let's show them we're not just a warship." "Captain," Donovan protested, "revealing ship schematics violates at least 3 security protocols. I'm not authorizing detailed technical specifications." "Officer," Voss said firmly, "just a general layout showing that we carry scientists and medical personnel alongside our military complement. I want them to understand that humanity explores space for multiple purposes, not just military dominance." As her officers prepared the transmission, Voss gazed at the comet where the alien vessel hid. First contact, the moment humanity had speculated about for centuries, was unfolding on her watch, during a routine border patrol. The weight of responsibility settled on her shoulders like a physical presence. "One more addition to our message," she said suddenly. "Include a proposal for a face-to-face meeting, neutral territory, That automated trading post at Outpost 7. It's unmanned, controlled by AI, and sits exactly on the border between our patrol zone and what I assume is their territory. Malik looked startled. Captain, that's well beyond your authority to offer. Noted. First Officer. Voss replied with a hint of a smile. I'll be sure to mention that in my court-martial defense. Send the message. In the shadow of the comet, Commander Aaron and his crew watched in astonishment as the human vessel, the Dauntless, they now knew from the transmission, sent detailed information about its internal configuration. The images confirmed Lyra's hypothesis. While heavily armed, the ship also contained substantial scientific, medical, and ecological sections. They're trying to reassure us, Lyra said softly, her skin glowing with cautious optimism. Showing us they're not solely warriors. Aaron nodded, but his attention had fixed on the final portion of the transmission, a set of coordinates and timing protocols that clearly represented an invitation to meet. They want face-to-face contact, he said, his voice a mixture of awe and trepidation. At the automated trading station, the bridge erupted in overlapping voices, some counseling immediate retreat and consultation with the council, others arguing for accepting the invitation. Aaron raised his four-fingered hand for silence. This decision cannot be made hastily, he said. We must inform Concord Central, but, he paused, considering his words carefully. Given communication delays and the rapidly evolving situation, I believe we must exercise our discretion as the officers on site. Commander, his security chief objected. Meeting these humans directly places you at enormous risk. They could be luring you into a trap. Possibly, Aaron conceded. But they've had multiple opportunities to attack us already, and have chosen communication instead. And the trading post is a logical choice for a meeting. Neutral ground, automated systems that both our technologies can interface with, and limited space that prevents either side from bringing overwhelming force. He straightened, his decision made. Prepare a response accepting their invitation. I will lead the delegation myself. Sir! Several officers protested simultaneously. Aaron's skin pulsed with firm resolve. This is not open for debate. If these humans are sending their ship's captain, and protocol suggests they would, then I must represent the Celestia as its commander. Anything less would be interpreted as an insult or a sign of fear. His expression softened slightly. Besides, someone needs to be the first Auroran to meet a human face to face. It might as well be me. As the Celestia prepared to emerge from hiding and make the short journey to the trading post, Aaron retreated to his private chamber for a moment of reflection. His skin had taken on the deep purple of anxiety, despite his outward confidence. He activated his personal recorder to document his thoughts. Personal log, Commander Aaron, Research Vessel Celestia. We are about to attempt direct contact with representatives of a previously unknown species that calls itself human. Their technology suggests a civilization that has developed along significantly different lines than our own, with greater emphasis on military capability. Yet their communications indicate a desire for peaceful interaction. I find myself wondering what manner of beings could create such powerful weapons, yet choose not to use them when given the opportunity. He paused, gathering his thoughts. The Council will undoubtedly question my decision to proceed without their explicit authorization. I can only hope that history will validate my choice. If these humans prove peaceful, this could be the beginning of a valuable new relationship for the Confederation. If not, his skin darkened momentarily. If not, then at least my actions might provide valuable intelligence for what is to come. He ended the recording and prepared to return to the bridge, pausing before the reflective surface that served as his quarters mirror. The Auroran, looking back at him, seemed suddenly very small and vulnerable in the face of what awaited. Well, Aaron, he said quietly to his reflection, you always wanted to make a significant scientific discovery, though I doubt you imagined it would be quite like this. With a final steadying breath, he departed for the bridge, ready to make history, for better or worse. The automated trading post designated Outpost 7 hung in space exactly on the demarcation line between human patrol routes and what they now knew to be Auroran territory. Originally established by human merchants as a remote supply depot, it had evolved into an unmanned facility where automated cargo ships could exchange goods without human oversight, guided by sophisticated AI systems that managed inventory, negotiated exchanges, and maintained the station's functionality. The station itself was utilitarian in design, a central hub with 4 extending docking arms, surrounded by storage modules and power generation systems. Its neutral status and automated nature made it the perfect location for this historic meeting. Captain Voss had chosen a minimal delegation: herself, First Officer Malik, and Dr. Nasrin Ahmadi, the Dauntless's chief medical officer and xenobiology specialist. All 3 wore standard uniforms without sidearms, a calculated risk that Weapons Officer Donovan had protested vehemently before their departure. This may be the most significant moment in human history, Voss had told her bridge crew before boarding the shuttle. But it's also just 3 people meeting 3 other people in a room. Let's not overcomplicate it. Now, as their shuttle docked with the trading post's north arm, Voss felt the weight of the moment settle fully upon her. Humanity had theorized about first contact for centuries, developing protocols and simulations. But the reality was now minutes away, and it felt nothing like the training scenarios. "Life support is green," Malik reported, as the docking process completed. "Station atmosphere is compatible with our requirements." "Any sign of the other party?" Voss asked, peering through the shuttle viewport toward the opposite docking arm. "Their shuttle is already docked at the south arm," Dr. Ahmadi confirmed, checking the station's automated logs through their interface. "They arrived approximately 7 minutes ago, but haven't entered the central hub yet. They appear to be waiting for us." Voss nodded, appreciating the courtesy. "Then, let's not keep them waiting any longer. Remember, no sudden movements, maintain a non-threatening posture, and follow my lead on all interactions." She smoothed her uniform and took a steadying breath. "Let's make a good first impression for humanity." The 3 officers exited their shuttle and made their way through the station's accessway toward the central hub, a circular chamber designed for merchant meetings and trade negotiations. The automated systems recognized their approach and adjusted lighting and temperature to human comfortable levels. As they reached the hub's entrance, Voss paused, then deliberately stepped forward through the doorway. The opposite door was already open, and 3 figures stood waiting. Captain Voss had seen countless alien species in fiction throughout her life, but nothing had prepared her for the reality. The beings before her were humanoid in their basic configuration, bipedal with 2 arms and a head. But the similarities ended there. Their skin appeared to glow from within, shifting subtly between shades of blue and violet. Instead of hair, their heads were adorned with what looked like delicate crystalline structures that caught the light. Their eyes, 4-lidded and vertical rather than horizontal, regarded the humans with an expression that even across species barriers read clearly as a mixture of caution and curiosity. For a long moment, neither group spoke, each taking in the appearance of being so familiar in basic structure, yet so alien in detail. Finally, Captain Voss stepped forward, keeping her movements slow and deliberate. "I am Captain Elena Voss of the Earth vessel Dauntless. With me are First Officer Malik and Dr. Ahmadi." She gestured to her companions with an open palm, a deliberately non-threatening gesture. "We come in peace and friendship, hoping to establish understanding between our peoples." The central figure of the alien trio moved forward with similar careful deliberation. When it spoke, the voice was melodic and fluid, with tonal qualities that seemed almost musical to human ears. "I am Commander Aaron of the research vessel Celestia, representing the Auroran Confederation." The alien skin pulsed briefly, brighter, as it spoke. With me are Science Officer Lyra and Medical Specialist Theno. We, too, seek peaceful understanding between our civilizations. Voss was momentarily startled that the alien, Aaron, spoke perfect English, before realizing that the station's translation systems must be operating automatically. It was designed to facilitate trade between different human languages. Apparently, it had already analyzed and incorporated the Auroran language into its matrices. "It is an honor to meet you, Commander Aaron," Voss replied, inclining her head slightly. "I believe this marks the first official contact between our species." "Indeed," Aaron responded, his skin shifting to a warmer hue that suggested positive emotion. "Though perhaps not entirely as either of us might have anticipated." A hint of a smile touched Voss's lips. "You refer to our rather unorthodox introduction, with your ship hiding in a comet's shadow while observing mine. While your vessel conducted what appeared to be a military patrol along our borders," Aaron countered, though his tone remained cordial. "You can perhaps understand our initial caution when we detected a heavily armed ship of unknown origin. Just as you can understand ours when we detected unidentified scanning of our vessel," Voss replied. She gestured toward the conference table at the center of the hub. "Perhaps we should continue this conversation more comfortably?" As both delegations seated themselves, the station having accommodated the Aurorans by producing chairs suited to their slightly different physiology, Voss noted how the initial tension had already begun to dissipate, despite the profound differences in their appearance. There was something recognizable in the Aurorans' body language and communication style, a shared foundation of intelligent, social beings that transcended the physical distinctions. "Commander Aaron," Voss began once they were settled, "I want to assure you that the Dauntless's patrol mission is defensive and exploratory in nature. We maintain presence along our borders to protect our colonies and shipping lanes, but we have no expansionist intentions toward your territory." Aaron's skin rippled with what might have been skepticism. "Yet your vessel carries significant offensive capability, more than would seem necessary for mere defense." Dr. Amati spoke up, her voice gentle but firm. "If I may, Captain." At Voss's nod, she addressed the Aurorans. "Humanity's history includes periods of conflict among our own kind. These experiences have made us cautious, perhaps overly so, when venturing into the unknown. Our ships are armed not because we expect to fight, but because we have learned the hard way to be prepared for any contingency." Science Officer Lyra's crystalline structures seemed to vibrate slightly as she responded. "The Auroran Confederation has followed a different evolutionary path. We abandoned warfare centuries ago, focusing instead on scientific advancement and cultural harmony. Our vessels are designed primarily for research and exploration." "A commendable achievement," Malik acknowledged. "Humanity continues to work towards similar ideals, though we have not yet reached such a state of universal peace." The conversation continued, carefully navigating the cultural and philosophical differences between their civilizations. The Aurorans explained their confederation of 15 species, united by shared values of scientific inquiry and peaceful coexistence. The humans described Earth's gradual unification and expansion to nearby star systems, emphasizing recent centuries of relative stability despite their more turbulent past. As the initial diplomatic exchanges gave way to more substantive discussion, Medical Specialist Theno leaned forward, addressing Dr. Amati directly. "If I understand correctly, your vessel contains medical facilities that serve both your crew and potentially those you encounter in your travels?" Amati nodded. "The Dauntless carries a full medical bay with advanced treatment capabilities. As both a military vessel and an exploration ship, we're equipped to handle everything from battle injuries to first contact medical protocols." She smiled warmly. "Including extensive quarantine facilities to protect both parties during biological exchanges like this one." Theno's skin glowed with professional interest. We maintain similar precautions aboard the Celestia, perhaps with appropriate safety measures. We might arrange an exchange of basic medical information, non-invasive scans and biological data that could benefit both our peoples in understanding one another. Before Dr. Amati could respond, the station's lights suddenly flickered, and the ambient hum of life support systems faltered momentarily. All 6 beings looked up in alarm. "Station diagnostic!" Voss commanded sharply. A holographic display materialized above the table, showing a schematic of the outpost with one section flashing red. "Power distribution node failure in Section 3. The station's AI reported in its neutral voice. Backup systems engaged. Estimated repair time, 4 hours, 17 minutes. "Are life support systems compromised?" Aaron asked, his skin pulsing with concern. "Negative. Current backup capacity sufficient for 12 hours at present occupancy levels. However, temperature regulation and gravity stabilization may experience fluctuations." As if on cue, the artificial gravity wavered, causing everyone to grip their chairs momentarily. First Officer Malik accessed a secondary console. "The primary power coupling has overloaded. This station wasn't designed for prolonged operation without maintenance cycles." He looked up at Voss. "The automated repair systems will handle it, but we're going to have an uncomfortable few hours." Voss turned to the Auroran delegation. "I apologize for this inconvenience. This outpost is overdue for a maintenance cycle. We can return to our respective vessels and reconvene another time if you prefer." Commander Aaron conferred briefly with his officers in their native language, a flowing, musical exchange that the translation system didn't bother to convert. Recognizing it as a private consultation, after a moment, he turned back to Voss. "Actually, Captain, this presents an interesting opportunity. Perhaps we might work together to expedite the repairs? It would be a practical demonstration of cooperation between our peoples." Voss found herself smiling at the unexpected suggestion. "An excellent proposal, Commander. I think we can reduce that 4-hour estimate considerably with joint effort." And so began an impromptu collaboration as the humans and Aurorans divided into teams to address the station's power failure. Malik and Science Officer Lyra tackled the primary coupling, discovering their technologies approached power distribution from fundamentally different but complementary perspectives. Dr. Amati and medical specialist Theno monitored life support systems to ensure safety during the repairs, finding common ground in their shared commitment to preserving life despite physiological differences. Captain Voss and Commander Aaron worked on rerouting auxiliary power, their initial diplomatic caution giving way to professional respect as they solved problems side by side. "Your understanding of quantum field manipulation is impressive," Aaron observed, as Voss reconfigured a particularly troublesome circuit junction. "Our scientists have only recently begun exploring similar principles, and your biomimetic interface technology is like nothing I've ever seen," Voss replied, watching in fascination as Aaron's touch seemed to communicate directly with the station's systems in a way human technology couldn't. "I think we have much to learn from each other." As they worked, the artificial crisis became a catalyst for genuine connection. Technical jargon giving way to cultural exchanges, professional courtesy evolving into the beginnings of trust. By the time the power systems were fully restored, in just under 2 hours, rather than the AI's estimated 4, the atmosphere had transformed entirely from the tense, formal first meeting to something approaching collegial. Gathered once more around the conference table, both delegations found themselves more relaxed, the earlier barriers diminished by their shared accomplishment. "I believe this unexpected challenge has proven more valuable than our planned discussions might have been," Commander Aaron observed, his skin now glowing with the warm orange that the humans had come to recognize as indicating pleasure or satisfaction. "There is no substitute for seeing how others respond to a crisis." "Agreed," Voss replied. And I hope what you've seen has reinforced our peaceful intentions. We came here not knowing what to expect, but ready to offer friendship rather than hostility. It has certainly given my government much to consider, Aaron acknowledged. The Auroran Council will need time to process this development. Our species has not encountered a civilization like yours before, one with both significant military capacity and a genuine desire for peaceful exchange. And my superiors will be equally surprised to learn of your confederation, Voss said. 15 species living in harmony is an inspiring model, even if our approaches to security differ. The meeting concluded with agreements for further communication protocols and the tentative scheduling of additional talks, pending approval from their respective governments. As they prepared to return to their vessels, Captain Voss extended her hand to Commander Aaron in the human gesture of farewell. After a moment's hesitation, Aaron extended his four-fingered hand in return, carefully mimicking the human handshake. "Until we meet again, Commander," Voss said warmly. "May the stars guide our paths back together." "Captain," Aaron replied, using a traditional Auroran blessing that the translation system rendered perfectly. As the human delegation returned to their shuttle, First Officer Malik spoke quietly to Voss. "Do you think Fleet Command will approve continued contact?" "They'll have concerns, certainly," Voss admitted. "But I believe the potential benefits of peaceful relations with the Auroran Confederation far outweigh the perceived risks. And I intend to make that case as strongly as possible in my report." What none of them could know as they departed was that their successful first contact was about to face its greatest test, one that would either cement their newborn alliance or shatter it completely. The mining colony of New Prospect hung in orbit around a remote gas giant on the very edge of the neutral zone, technically outside both human and Auroran jurisdiction, but frequented by independent operators from multiple species. The colony was a ramshackle collection of habitation modules, processing facilities, and docking ports, home to several thousand miners, engineers, and their families who extracted valuable exotic gases from the planet's turbulent atmosphere. Its location had always made New Prospect vulnerable to the whims of nature, but the massive stellar flare now erupting from the system's primary star threatened catastrophic damage. The colony's outdated shields were already failing under the onslaught of radiation and charged particles. Distress calls had gone out on all frequencies, but the remote location meant that help would take time to arrive, time the colonists might not have. Aboard the Dauntless, the emergency transmission had interrupted Captain Voss's composition of her report to Fleet Command about the Auroran first contact. "Shields at 32% and failing," came the desperate voice of New Prospect's administrator. "We've got 3,000 civilians, including 700 children. Evacuation underway, but proceeding slowly due to limited shuttle capacity. Estimate shield failure in under 2 hours. Any vessels in range, please respond. This is a humanitarian emergency." Voss didn't hesitate. "Helm, set course for New Prospect. Maximum sustainable speed. Tactical. Prepare shield harmonics for radiation dispersal. Medical. Prepare for potential mass casualties." "Captain," Malik said quietly, as the bridge crew rushed to comply. "New Prospect lies just beyond the neutral zone. Technically, we would be operating outside our jurisdiction." "It's a civilian emergency, First Officer," Voss replied firmly. "Jurisdiction is irrelevant when lives are at stake." She activated the ship-wide communication system. "All hands. This is the captain. We are responding to an emergency at the New Prospect mining colony. Prepare for potential rescue and medical operations. This is not a military engagement, but it will require our best efforts. Voss out." As the Dauntless altered course and accelerated toward the endangered colony, Voss found herself wondering if their new Auroran acquaintances had received the same distress call, and if so, how they would respond. She didn't have long to wait for her answer. The Celestia had indeed intercepted the distress signal, and Commander Aaron had faced a similar decision. The Auroran vessel was not designed for combat or emergency operations, but it carried advanced medical facilities and scientific equipment that could prove valuable in a crisis. "We must respond," Aaron had told his officers without hesitation. "These are civilian lives at risk, regardless of species." Now, as the Celestia approached New Prospect from the opposite direction, their long-range sensors detected another vessel converging on the colony. "It's the Dauntless," Science Officer Lyra confirmed, her skin pulsing with surprise. "They're approaching at high speed with shields activated." A momentary tension filled the bridge as the officers processed this information. Were the humans rushing to claim the colony? To establish military presence in disputed territory? Aaron studied the sensor readings carefully, noting the specific configuration of the Dauntless's shields. "They've optimized their defensive systems for radiation dispersal, not combat," he observed. "They're coming to help, just as we are." He opened a communication channel. "Dauntless, this is Commander Aaron aboard the Celestia. We have received the New Prospect distress call and are approaching to render assistance. We propose coordinating our efforts." There was a brief pause before Captain Voss's voice responded, containing what sounded like relief. "Commander Aaron, we welcome your assistance. New Prospect's situation is deteriorating rapidly. Our vessel has superior shield technology that can help protect the colony, but limited medical capacity for this scale of emergency. The Celestia has advanced medical facilities and atmospheric purification systems," Aaron replied. "We can focus on treating the affected colonists while you stabilize their shields." "Agreed. Sending you our approach vector now. Let's save these people, Commander." "Together, Captain," Aaron affirmed, his skin glowing with determined purpose. New Prospect was in chaos when the two vessels arrived. The colony's main shield had collapsed on one quadrant, exposing several habitat modules to dangerous levels of radiation. Evacuation shuttles were launching in haphazard sequence, some dangerously overloaded with desperate colonists. The Dauntless moved into position directly between the colony and the star, extending its advanced shields to cover the exposed quadrant. The massive warship, so recently viewed with fear by the Aurorans, now served as a protective barrier against the stellar onslaught. Meanwhile, the Celestia docked with the colony's medical bay, its crew deploying with emergency equipment and treatment protocols adapted on the fly for human physiology. The Auroran medical specialists worked alongside the colony's doctors, their different approaches to medicine creating unexpected synergies in treating radiation exposure and related injuries. Captain Voss coordinated from the Dauntless, managing the evacuation sequence while maintaining the vessel's protective position. Commander Aaron led his medical teams personally, his scientific background proving valuable in adapting Auroran treatments to human patients. For hours, the two ships and their crews worked in seamless cooperation, focused entirely on saving as many lives as possible. Cultural differences and diplomatic caution faded into irrelevance in the face of immediate need. Humans and Aurorans passed each other in corridors, worked side by side in treatment centers, and jointly operated evacuation protocols without pause for political considerations. Yet, despite their best efforts, the situation continued to deteriorate. The stellar flare intensified beyond predictions, straining even the Dauntless's advanced shields. And then, disaster struck. A massive plasma ejection from the star slammed into the Dauntless's starboard shield, creating a cascading overload that damaged several key systems. The mighty warship held position, but at significant cost. "Shield generators 3 and 4 are offline," reported Lieutenant Zhang from the Dauntless Bridge. "Cooling systems in engineering sections 5 through 8 compromised. We've got fires on decks 7 and 9. Dispatch damage control teams," Voss ordered, her voice steady despite the crisis. "Reroute power from non-essential systems to maintain remaining shields." Captain, Weapons Officer Donovan interjected. We need to withdraw to a safe distance for repairs. We can't maintain this position with compromised shields. Voss gestured toward the view screen, which showed the colony still in the process of evacuation. And abandon those people to die? Not an option, officer. The ship shuddered as another, smaller ejection hit their weakened shields. We can hold position for another 47 minutes at most, First Officer Malik reported grimly. After that, shield collapse is inevitable. Voss nodded, accepting the assessment. Then we make those 47 minutes count. Continue evacuation prioritization. Focus on children and medical cases first. On the colony, Commander Aaron was coordinating triage when he received word of the Dauntless's situation. Without hesitation, he contacted his vessel. Celestia, this is Commander Aaron. Prepare to break dock and move to support position alongside the Dauntless. Reconfigure our research shields to augment their coverage. Commander, came the concerned response from his first officer. Our shields aren't designed for this level of radiation. We'll sustain significant damage. Understood, Aaron replied. But without the Dauntless's protection, thousands will die here today. Make it happen. The Celestia detached from the colony and maneuvered carefully into position beside the larger human vessel, extending its more limited shields to overlap with the Dauntless's coverage. The Auroran ship was not built for such conditions, and damage reports began almost immediately. But Aaron's decision was clear. They would stand with their new human allies, whatever the cost. Aboard the Dauntless, Captain Voss watched with astonishment as the Auroran vessel moved to support them. They're reinforcing our shield coverage, Lieutenant Zhang reported. It's buying us time, but their vessel isn't designed for this. They're taking damage at twice our rate. Voss opened a channel immediately. Commander Aaron, this is Captain Voss. We appreciate your support, but your vessel isn't built for these conditions. You need to withdraw to safety. Aaron's voice came back steady, despite the obvious sounds of emergency alarms in the background. With respect, Captain, we will remain in position. Our sensors indicate the evacuation is 73% complete. Together, we can hold until it's finished. At what cost to your ship and crew? Voss pressed. There was a brief pause before Aaron responded. No greater than you were willing to pay yourself. Captain, we share this burden as allies. The word hung in the air. Allies, transforming what had begun as a cautious diplomatic contact into something more profound. For the next 30 minutes, the two vessels held their protective formation, their shields gradually failing but their resolve unwavering. On both ships, damage control teams fought fires and structural breaches, while medical staff treated mounting casualties. Yet not once did either commander suggest retreat. The final evacuation shuttles launched from New Prospect, just as the Dauntless's remaining shields dropped below 10% capacity. With the last civilians safely clear, both vessels finally disengaged, their hulls scorched and systems damaged. But their mission accomplished. As they limped to a safe distance from the stellar flare's effects, Captain Voss opened a visual communication channel to the Celestia. The image that appeared showed Commander Aaron on his damaged bridge, emergency lighting casting blue shadows across his features, but his skin glowing with the unmistakable hue of satisfaction. Your ship looks as bad as mine, Commander, Voss observed with a tired smile. Merely cosmetic damage, Aaron replied, with what Voss now recognized as the Auroran equivalent of dry humor. Though our chief engineer might disagree. I wanted to thank you, Voss said, her tone growing serious. Your intervention saved many lives today, both colonists and my own crew. Aaron's skin pulsed warmly. As did yours, Captain. I believe we have demonstrated rather conclusively that despite our differences, we are stronger together than apart. Indeed. Voss hesitated, then added, when I file my report about today's events, I intend to formally recommend that Earth's government pursue an alliance treaty with the Auroran Confederation. After what I've witnessed, I can think of no better partners for humanity's future in space. I will make a similar recommendation to our council. Aaron agreed. Though I suspect the recordings of our ships standing together to save the colony will be more persuasive than any diplomatic language I might offer. The joint rescue operation at New Prospect did indeed prove to be the turning point in human-Auroran relations. When the visual records of the two vessels, one a powerful warship, the other a scientific explorer, standing side by side against a stellar onslaught to protect civilians, reached their respective governments. The impact was immediate and profound. On Concord Central, the Council of 15 Species convened an emergency session to review the evidence. The Hawks, like Councillor Thale, who had advocated for defensive preparations against the human threat, found their arguments undermined by the undeniable heroism displayed by the Dauntless and her crew. They could have withdrawn to safety, Moderator Celine pointed out to the assembled representatives. Their vessel was clearly capable of escape. Instead, they held position at great risk to themselves to protect colonists, many of whom weren't even their own species. One act of assistance does not negate the danger their military capacity represents, Councillor Thale argued, though with noticeably less conviction than before. Perhaps not, Celine conceded. But it does reveal their character. And in my experience, the character of a civilization ultimately matters more than their weapons. She gestured to the holographic display showing the damaged Dauntless. They build warships, yes, but they use them to protect, not conquer. After lengthy debate, the Council voted by a significant majority to authorize formal diplomatic relations with humanity, with a view toward eventual alliance. Agent Mira, whose initial observations had nearly triggered panic, was now tasked with serving as a liaison to the human diplomatic team that would soon arrive at Concord Central. Similar discussions unfolded within Earth Senate, where Captain Voss's report and the accompanying footage sparked intense debate about the implications of alliance with a multi-species confederation. The Aurorans possess technologies we've barely theorized, argued Senator Kamala Chen, chair of the Science Advancement Committee. Medical techniques centuries ahead of our own, quantum manipulation principles that could revolutionize our understanding of physics. The benefits of peaceful exchange are incalculable. But they lack our defensive capabilities, countered Admiral Jackson of Fleet Command. An alliance could draw us into protecting 15 species across hundreds of worlds, a considerable strategic commitment. Or it could bring 15 species worth of scientific and cultural resources to bear on mutual challenges. Senator Chen replied, including the development of defensive systems that don't rely solely on weapons. In the end, the Senate authorized a formal diplomatic mission to Concord Central, with Captain Voss, now promoted to Commodore for her handling of both First Contact and the New Prospect crisis, appointed as special envoy alongside a team of diplomats, scientists, and cultural specialists. 3 months after the events at New Prospect, the newly commissioned diplomatic vessel Starbridge approached Concord Central Station for the first official state visit between humanity and the Auroran Confederation. The vessel, designed specifically for diplomatic missions rather than military operations, symbolized humanity's commitment to peaceful engagement with their new allies. On the observation deck, Commodore Voss stood beside Commander Aaron, who had been similarly honored by his government with appointment to the official welcoming delegation. Both of them had recovered from injuries sustained during the New Prospect rescue, though Aaron still moved with a slight favoring of his left side, where emergency repairs to the Celestia had collapsed around him. "It's quite something, isn't it?" Voss said quietly, as they gazed at the magnificent crystalline structure of Concord Central, its 15 spires representing the member species of the Confederation. 3 months ago, we didn't even know each other existed. Now we're on the verge of a historic alliance. From fear to friendship in a remarkably short time, Aaron agreed, his skin glowing with the deep blue of contemplation. though perhaps not so remarkable when one considers the fundamental truth we discovered, which is that beneath our different exteriors and evolutionary paths, we share common values: courage, compassion, self-sacrifice for others. Aaron's four-fingered hand gestured toward the stars, visible beyond the station. The universe is vast and often dangerous. Intelligence that evolves to face those dangers, regardless of its physical form, may naturally develop similar ethical foundations. Voss smiled at the philosophical observation. In simpler human terms, Commander, when the radiation hits the shields, you learn quickly who stands with you and who runs. Aaron's skin pulsed with amusement. Indeed, Commodore, a much more elegant phrasing. As the Starbridge completed its docking procedures, preparing to disembark the human delegation for the formal welcome ceremony, Voss found herself reflecting on the chain of events that had led to this moment. A routine patrol, an accidental detection, a frightened scientist's scan that might have led to conflict but instead opened the door to understanding. "You know," she said to Aaron as they prepared to join the official procession, "in human history, first contacts between different cultures often ended in misunderstanding and conflict. We feared that pattern might repeat when we eventually met non-human intelligence. The Auroran histories record similar concerns," Aaron admitted. "Perhaps we've both learned from our pasts. Or perhaps," Voss suggested, "we just got lucky that it was your science vessel and my patrol ship that found each other, rather than someone more trigger-happy on either side." Aaron considered this. "I don't believe in luck, Commodore. I believe in the statistical probability that intelligent life, having survived long enough to reach the stars, must necessarily have developed cooperation alongside competition." His skin glowed with conviction. "Fear is natural when facing the unknown, but curiosity and empathy are equally powerful evolutionary advantages." "Well," Voss said with a smile as the docking bay doors began to open, revealing the assembled dignitaries waiting to welcome humanity to the Confederation. "Here's to curiosity and empathy winning out over fear, this time and in all the first contacts yet to come." Together, the human officer and her Auroran counterpart stepped forward to formalize the alliance that had begun with a frightened glimpse of a warship and culminated in a shared act of courage that transcended their differences. Behind them, the stars shone on unchanged, witnessing one more step in the long evolution of intelligent life, not away from fear, but toward the understanding that lies beyond it.